My name is Martin, and I'm here today to hopefully kickstart you in starting to use the ultimate tool you will ever have to do privacy and ethics risk assessment in your daily life. Before I explain you how to, let's take a step back and look at where we came from as a bank. I worked for the Rabobank for almost 20 years now, and in the last 5 years I've been engaged in setting up an advanced data analytics team. We started experimenting with big data and advanced analytics technologies back in 2011, and during the years we've set up a plan how to use this technology and make it for better use within the bank for our clients. In 2014 we set up the advanced data analytics team, just 5 people in there. Nowadays we have a team of 25 data scientists, a couple of business consultants, data engineers, platform engineers, quite a mixture of good capabilities to drive the innovation on data. Becoming a data-driven bank is one of our goals, and the innovation assignment we had in 2013-2014 has now become into getting a mature digital transformation organization. By the way, back in 2014, when we started this department, I would start these kind of presentations with the question, what if in the future Google might know something about what's happening behind your front door? For instance, what if Google would know that the tap is running while you're brushing your teeth? So they can inform you about the running water, this water spending there. What about if Google would know if you're having dinner together at your dinner table at night? Or even, what if Google would know where your phone sleeps? Are they sleeping together in one room upstairs? Or is there one phone sleeping upstairs and one is sleeping downstairs? What would be the interpretation Google would give to that? In those days we were considering, well, what about if these kind of things would happen in the future? But looking at state of technology these days, we know with Google Home, the Alexa speakers in your home, technology is already there. But the question is, will Google or will Amazon use this kind of technology, use the data they have, use this to profile you, because they have the technology, but will they use it? And more important, how would you feel about it? And I think that is the most important lesson we learned throughout the years when we set up this department, the Advanced Data Analytics department within the bank, that from day one we had to consider, looking at our business ambitions, we had to consider how can we find a balance between what we can technically do opposed to what can we do within legal boundaries, what is allowed, and also what does feel right, what feels right in our ethical profile, the ethical appetite of the bank. So the balance between these three, between technical opportunities, what is allowed and what feels right, that was our game. And basically that is my game on a daily basis. I'm an architect for the data intelligence lab within the bank, but also responsible for pricing, ethics and security within our team, setting it up properly, policies, and working accordingly. So these 3 things need to be in balance. That's one of our first lessons we've learned, because we have a lot of people's data and they trust us to work with that data in a proper manner and make sure that their privacy is guarded and that we look into ethical principles in using their data. But like I said, I want to give you a bit of an idea of what is the tool you can have within yourself and use it in your daily job. I'll do that in looking at a couple of examples and trigger something in you. Just what if we would use our data in decisioning algorithms and the computer would say no? Well, we all know we shouldn't do this. We should make sure that we include people, not exclude people. So algorithms and applications where there's no human involved, because exclude, that'll have an impact on how people look at your company. But another one. What if we would use data and figure out that you're using drugs? For a bank, it's quite easy. We could look at your payments data, and let's say you're within a certain area of Amsterdam, between 10 and midnight, you're at an ATM, you're getting in, let's say 50 or 100 euros on a regular basis. Well, we might consider that you are going to get something. We can assess this from data, but how will we use it? Can we use this, for instance, to look at one of our daughter companies, an insurance company, reuse that information as input for our insurance company? Well, of course, no. Yeah, this is not what we're doing. Yeah, this is not what we're doing. But another one, what if we use data, payments data, to look at what we, well, we sometimes make a laugh with. This is what we call the Rabobank predictor test. This is where we can predict out of data the firstborn in your family. We can, actually, quite good. What if we would reuse that insight to update our client administration? Well, it's a bit okay-ish, but what if we would use this insight to sell you banking products? Starts feeling a bit creepy. We are not going to use it for insurance products, of course, but that's the previous slide. And even worse, what if we would use these insights to sell it to retail? Well, this is a big no, of course. But these are the cases that we encountered in the last couple of years to understand what is the impact of reusing data. And this is what we learned throughout the years to think about and make sure that our employees also understand what's the impact in the reuse of data. I promised you I would kickstart the ultimate tool you will ever have. And the ultimate tool is your own gut feeling. We are also clients. We are also clients of banks. We are also buying products. We also, well, give away our data. We all have a sensitivity in ourselves. We all feel our privacy. If the privacy is, well, if it's okay if companies use my data, what I feel about it if I build a product, do I feel it's ethically right that we build this product, or if I'm confronted with the product? So we as clients, but also as employees within a bank or any other company, have our gut feeling, and we are the best guinea pigs in the world. So instead of a discussion about policies, procedures, they need to be there, but we also have an ultimate tool, an instrument within ourselves to use on a daily basis, our gut feeling. Because ultimately, customers have one question: can they trust us with their data? And people are getting more literate. They know a bit more about big data than 5 years ago. We also have regulations that give us, well, we need to be accountable for what we do. We need to be transparent in what we do with data. We're also learning in using these analytical capabilities, and there's a steep learning pattern there. But ethics is a different thing. If you relate it to privacy, privacy is regulation. Well, you sort of could make a checklist. This is right, that is wrong. But with ethics, things will change over time. The way you look at your ethical appetite of your company today will differ in a couple of years. How people will look at you as a company will change throughout the years. So ethics is not something you can cover in a checklist. So ethics is something you need to consider regularly. Yeah? Keep in touch with your clients. Within the bank, we've set up what we call a privacy by design canvas. We have set up an organizational compass. Well, we also have it in our logo, compass. The organizational compass will tell our employees, the people who work with us, how we think they should behave, how they should behave towards clients, how they should behave towards each other. Because we work with client data, but we also work with employee data within the bank. So the compass gives you an idea, this is how we work within the bank. we give this insight, we teach our employees in the onboarding process with e-learnings, but we're also setting up what we call a data manifesto. That's a document where we try to describe, and it's not easy, but we try to describe what do we as a company want to do with data, how will we process data, and how can we explain to the people, to our clients, what we do with your data. We think it's important to have such a data manifesto because you must be clear and transparent about what you do with clients' data. You need to be explainable in that. It's a challenge because if you're transparent about what you do with data, you will also have situations where you can no longer do things with data. Sometimes companies don't want you to know what you do with data. But we think we need to be transparent and clear about it. And this will give us the situation where we cannot do things with data that others can. But therefore, we are there to make you trust us with your data. So we think this is important. In our project organization, there should also be room for thought on privacy and ethics. So you need an open culture in that. So I think a lot of companies are now working with Scrum Agile. In your retrospect, in your ideation sessions, you need to consider privacy and ethics. People working within a Scrum Agile team, there needs to be room for discussion on privacy and ethics. Your Scrum Master will be quite important as a role within your team to facilitate that. But also in a way of working, you can cover a lot of things like we have in our Data Intelligence Lab, we have an innovation funnel with milestones where you have to check with a committee that is responsible for assessing the reuse of data within the bank. Yes, sometimes you can work within a guideline, sometimes you need a decisioning committee. The decisioning committee is what we call a business employee data committee, who's looking at the reuse of data for a different purpose that we originally ingested for. The business employee data committee assesses the reuse of data within the bank. And we have an ethics committee and a privacy office that helps us setting the scene and being the operational committee to do these assessments. If a lot of cases come up, like case for marketing or diversity reporting or whatever, several cases will come up, and throughout the year you'll have enough cases assessed to just look at them and say, well, we can write this down into a guideline. Instead of assessing every case over and over again, we build our guidelines. So this is our privacy by design canvas. These are typically the things we do as a bank, the things we have in place, and the things we use to explain to our people how to work and what we think is a proper way of working in both privacy and ethical way. A little bit of detail on that innovation funnel approach. The way we innovate within the Data and Intelligence Lab, the way we build our projects, create our applications, AI applications. We have several stages and several milestones, and the first one in having a backlog with ideas, looking at in the first stages, exploring which of these ideas are feasible. That's where we train our people to look at privacy and ethics and take that into consideration. But there are also formal approvals needed, and throughout this these innovation stages, we need an approval from the Business Employee Data Committee. That is how we do it. So this is a safeguard in our innovation process. You would think a lot more procedures takes time. Well, normally in assessing a case, if you do your proper homework within a project, it's more or less 4 hours of labor in setting up the information needed to assess your case, and the approval is quite easily done because we have a setting within the Business Employee Data Committee where we have compliance on board, legal, the business is involved, so we have quite a good mixture of people within that committee. What projects tend to forget, and that's the last one, is once you're in production, you need to evaluate the public opinion on a regular basis. Just you've built today, public opinion will change over time, so reassess it on a regular basis. Don't forget about that. I'd like to take you along a bit into ethics on AI. But to get there, I've prepared 2 slides to give you a bit of an idea, getting on the same page on AI, because that helps in the rest of the slides. Artificial intelligence, it's, well, there are a lot of terms used and mixed and matched, but how we look at artificial intelligence from a banking perspective, we like to keep things simple. We look at machine learning, deep learning kind of applications, and yes, within the market there's also applications that vendors would call cognitive computing, natural language processing in the end, and that's a bit of the discussion. I feel cognitive computing is a bit more a sales term because in fact, natural language processing, looking at the English language, for instance, you have 44 patterns to recognize to build every word or sentence you can make in the English language. Then again, you'll still have deep learning, pattern recognition. So if there's a real difference, I don't know. At least there's a difference in unsupervised and supervised learning. Unsupervised, you will discover new patterns by giving a lot of input to your computer, a lot of samples to discover new patterns, or you can teach an application and give example specifics. Applications, just code them based on a business question that would result in an answer. These days with AI applications, we have a lot of output, we still have the business question, we use that output to discover patterns, and that's where you build your algorithm. A bit of how we as humans learn by example. If you're putting AI applications into production, there are a couple of things that you need to consider. Fairness, bias. Bias, we've heard it a couple of times these days. Training your algorithm, make sure that you have unbiased training data sets. You must also be able to be transparent, explainable AI. You must be accountable for your application, of course. In using AI, there are 3 ethical dilemmas that you have to look into. Your train data set, the design of your train data set. Make sure that you have an unbiased data set. That's quite a difficult task to do, but you'll need to consider that. Which type of application are you using for which problem you want to solve? Neural networks in decision-making engines or decision-making solutions? Not so much, because you can't be transparent about your neural network. Not as good as in rule-based solutions. But also, if you use a model for a specific goal, don't reuse it for anything else. Reconsider and reassess the use of that model. Is it really fit for that purpose? Yeah, so these are 3 things to think about if you're using AI into production. Coming back to bias, just a couple of questions to you as audience. Making difference between input, is it a dog or a nugget? If you feed the system wrongly, you would either walk your nugget or eat your dog. Yeah. But also, who is this? Who's the first? No one? Stephen Hawking. Well, just within 5 seconds. You're a good audience. We can do this within 5 seconds. Computers cannot yet, because we know the context, we know how to recognize Stephen Hawking in this. Yeah, so giving the right input to your algorithm, that's an important thing to do. And we can have quite a philosophical discussion about the ethics in building new AI applications, but I think if you look really close to it, where we had to program in the old days, we had to make sure that we were coding right. Yeah? But in having artificial intelligence, we have to figure out where can I get and how can I get a warning before the code does something terribly wrong. Yeah, so there's a different approach needed there. Tell them I'm not in today. You can have an approach which is more in a procedural way. You have to become AI literate. We all have heard the term data literacy. I introduced recently the term AI literacy. We need to use the same language to understand each other. Of course, you have to train your application, but the other thing is we have we have the need for forensic tools, so we can profile, discuss it with your users, how your application is working in real life, and is it doing the thing you want it to do. Becoming AI literate. I'll give you an example. Most typical description of, for instance, an application that we can build to play chess. Typically, we describe it in this way. We created a program capable of learning to play chess. We trained it by having it play thousands of example games, and it learned from experience, and its play improved. It can now beat most human players. Do we understand what this is? No, we don't. So a better description, and this is what I explain, is what I'd like to address as AI literacy. We need a common language in this. We use a structured graph to model decisions that made in a game of chess. We build a graph from thousands of example games, and we write an algorithm that searches the graph for decisions that resulted in wins. The algorithm finds decisions superior to those found by most human players. This is if you read this as an example, now you understand what's within the black box. Yeah, so we need a good language for that. As a summary, designing AI applications is the same as software applications, the build of software applications, but you need to profile the model, assess the risk before you release it, and make sure that by using profiling of a model, you can monitor performance of your model and even drift. Because if your model starts drifting, you have to assess the risk again and replace or retrain your model. Last slide for today, just to give you an idea and let you feel what we can do and cannot do, make your gut feeling start to work. If we use the number of transactions abroad to offer you a credit card, as a bank we can do this because this is part of our banking products. We discussed the prediction of firstborn. What about a prediction model for divorce? How would you feel about that? Not for users in direct interaction with our clients, of course, but it can be useful information to predict mortgage repayment problems. Yeah, so it increases the risk profile of clients. So for internal use, it might be useful, but not for client interaction, of course. Identifying Turkish customers and offer them specific services. Well, this is the term of inclusion-exclusion. Why doing this for Turkish customers, not others? Sharing Bitcoin transactions with tax authorities. Well, not proactively, of course. And what about informing our clients on the gambling behavior of their spouses? These are typically things, and I put these up as hypothetical cases for discussion. These are things that we use within the training of our team to look at what would you decide, to inspire them and make sure that their intrinsic privacy and ethical values are activated, challenged, and they're inspired to speak up and step up and do their thing. Hopefully this helps you in starting to use your own ultimate tool for assessing privacy and ethical risks in your daily life, or even better, inspire your employees within your company, because they are key. Thank you for that.